26 games, 13 wins, 4 draws and 9 defeats is Mauricio Pochettino's current record as Chelsea FC manager. And at the time of recording, after being defeated 1-0 last night in our League Cup semi-final against Middlesbrough, there is a sizable proportion of the Chelsea fan base that are calling for the manager's head. But are they right to do so? And is Mauricio Pochettino right to steer the ship to safety and to improve this Chelsea side? We are going to try and debate that and answer that question in today's video. But people, before we get into it, welcome back to the Joey Knight podcast. If you are new around here, at the end of this video, please do me a massive favour by hitting that subscribe button right now. I know we're not feeling good as Chelsea fans, but please help me feel a little bit better by smashing that like button on the video right now. And I've got good news for you. We have got the main man here today, channel fan favourite and my good friend Josh Aveste. And Josh won't tell you this himself because he's too humble, but it is Josh's birthday today. So everyone show their love for Josh coming in, sitting here and having to talk a load of rubbish with me after a defeat on his birthday by heading over to Josh's channel. It's linked in the description to this video. Subscribe to Josh's channel so that you can see all of his content that is coming out on a weekly basis. Josh, it's good to have you on your birthday, mate, but it's not great to be coming in off the back of a loss last night.
It was absolutely shit, wasn't it?
Mate, look, shocking.
It was really bad. And I get why there are so many people slagging off Mauricio Pochettino. There are so many things that happened last night, from tactics to team selection, that we need to get into right now. Because when you looked at that team sheet, how did you feel?
Do you know what? Like, I got a lot of stick because obviously I reposted your story on my story where we were saying we've been calling for the false nine. I did think that it was something that we needed to try and experiment, because obviously Broa for the time being isn't looking like he's going to progress on to being that striker that can be relied upon leading our line. Nicholas Jackson's been very hit and miss. Sometimes his numbers are slightly deceiving. They look good at a glance, but actually when you watch him, you know, the eye test, it doesn't always bode well on Nicholas Jackson, especially the fact that I don't think he is even a number 9. And with Nkunku coming in, you know, he can play number 9, but he can also play different positions across that front line. So the false 9 was something that I was quite intrigued to see. And actually, you know, with the injury crisis we've got, I thought we went as full strength as we possibly could with that lineup. I wasn't massively dissatisfied with the lineup, but I know a lot of people are, you know, seething at the fact that we keep continuing to see Levi Colwill at left back. That's not something that people are wanting to see. I think a lot of people would have liked to have seen Mykhailo Mudryk in there from the start. But what I would say is, everything changes in hindsight with context, doesn't it? Because if we had gone out there, if Cole Palmer had took some of his chances early on in that game, you know, we had to come through comfortable at the Riverside Stadium, taking the tie back to Stamford Bridge, I don't think there'd have been a whole lot made of the lineup. What did you think?
For me, I can understand. Like, I always try and get in my head of someone that questions Pochettino, someone that's looking at the team now and saying we aren't progressing. And it was interesting, wasn't it, mate? There was some quotes by Julian Laurent before the last game saying that Poch basically hasn't improved any players and that we haven't moved forward. And so I looked at that team last night and I agree with you. Like, it was almost full strength. The only two that I would disagree with you on is we should probably have seen Broja, and that's easy to say in hindsight, but we probably should have seen him. I said to you before the last game when we were playing in the FA Cup against Preston, I said to you, the teams in the Championship, they're physical, they want to boss us, they're going to use set pieces, and they're going to try and exploit us that way. And so that's why I would have played Broja in that game, and maybe that's why I would have probably played Broja in this game. And then, as you say, mate, Mykhailo Mudryk, I know I get a bit of banter about supporting this guy more than anything, and he's the poster boy that I absolutely love. And look, I do love looking at him, but I love looking at him on the pitch as well more than anything. And I have to say, I don't know whether you want to get into this right now, but I am going to have a moment about Raheem Sterling. Because again, there were moments yesterday where I saw the Raheem Sterling of last season, where his shoulders were down, he wasn't running and tracking back for his team, he was sauntering around, putting his arms up in the air, and I was just going, I'm sick of this geezer. I'm absolutely sick of him. So if you're saying to me, am I questioning Poch's setup? I'm questioning not starting those two boys, and I'm questioning the Colwill move to a degree. But then to the people dissenting about Colwill at left back, who are you going to play there instead? And I was thinking about this for the team selections going forward. The only other real option that we have right now available for that left-back role is Gilchrist or Gusto moving over and Gilchrist being a right-back.
Do you know what the funny thing is about that left-back slot, yeah? You solve one problem by creating another problem, potentially. Because what I think we would be best served doing is moving Axel Disasi possibly to right back. Again, played a little bit out of position there. I have seen Axel Disasi at right back, and I don't want to go as far to say I've been impressed by him, but my God, I've been more impressed than when I see him at centre back, because for me, Axel Disasi is just not doing it. I really do believe that. So I think that you solve one problem by potentially moving Axel Disasi over to the right back slot, or having Alfie Gilchrist in there, having Thiago Silva and Levi Colwill as the centre-backs, and then potentially having Melo Gusto in that left-back slot. Now, I've been in the stands and seen Melo Gusto there a couple of times, and he served quite well there. I think when he has been there, he's looked good. Obviously, the ball that he whipped in from that left-back position the other night against Preston that Brower got on the end of, I think I could have scored that header because the ball in was so good, the in-swinger from that left-back position. But in saying that, I'm very, very aware that what I'm doing there is solving one problem potentially by creating more problems. But so it's not ideal, is it?
No, it's not. And one of the biggest sticks that everyone is beating Pochettino with at the moment is saying that he's playing players out of position. So what you've done there is you've taken in the back four one player that's playing out of position, and you're now putting two players that are playing out of position.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that people are getting on Mauricio Pochettino's back, and it's one thing that I have to forgive him for, to be honest with you, because right now he doesn't really have any other options, does he? Chilwell is only just coming back. Cucurella is going to be out for probably weeks, if not months, still with his ankle injury. So you're just sort of going.
Well, hold on.
What's going on?
Can I play devil's advocate here?
Please do.
He could have had an option, couldn't he?
He could have. So we're talking about Matson, aren't we?
Yeah, we had a young left back who I'm pretty sure was in the championship team of the season last season. Played week in, week out at left back for Burnley, and potentially could have offered us a completely different dynamic to what Levi Colwill is. Because let's just quickly. Look, we will get into last night's match. I don't want to sit here and speak too much on Josh's birthday about last night's match, but we will get into it. But one thing I will say is time in, time out, Levi Colwill is being exposed in that left-back slot.
Big time.
If you match Levi Colwill up against a half-decent winger with half-decent foot speed, Levi Colwill is very, very likely to get exposed at some point. You know, we had the warning signs against Elise, and then maybe, in the match against Luton, our fears were quashed ever so slightly, and then we were seen again last night, championship quality players, and that's no disrespect to the Middlesbrough players. If they've got a bit of pace about them, you match them up against Levi Colwill out of position at left back, he's not going to fare well. But the sympathy has to go here with Levi Colwill, because I really do doubt that Levi Colwill is itching to play at left back. It is the position Pochettino is playing him in, and as much as we can say he's forced by injury, if it's not above Poch's head, and it is, a direct decision from Poch to deem Matson not good enough, you've got to ask the question, how? How have you come to that conclusion?
I mean, the board, mate, wanted to get rid of Matson in the summer. They were very close to accepting that bid. In fact, they did accept the bid, and it was only Matson himself that declined the offer to go back to Burnley. So I just think with Matson, right, I don't think he actually does fare too much better in that game yesterday, and it might cause us even more problems. Matson is what, 5'6", 5'7"? He's a small guy, and you're against Borough, who are are just gonna lump a ball in, and we know that we have some solidity with our centre backs. With Colwill being there, we have some solidity from an aerial perspective in a young team that are inexperienced. Whereas if you put Matson in there, you've not got any height at all. He's not going to win any headers, is he? At all. So you're sacrificing one thing where, he could take on a winger and probably 1v1 maybe be better, but then you're sacrificing so much else. So, mate, honestly, I feel that at the moment it's one of those things where you plug one hole, and then there's another thing that comes up and we're leaking water elsewhere. Like, it is that bad at the moment. And I have to say there are injuries that are part of that, but then you do really have to start looking at the way that Poch is setting up the teams and how we are moving forward, because it's just not getting better, is it?
So let's just quickly touch on last night's game. I'll give my brief synopsis of what I saw last night. I thought we were very, very poor last night, and I wasn't encouraged at all by Pochettino's comments before and after the game. Pochettino praised the team's intensity. I didn't think we did show very good intensity at all. I understand that on another day, Cole Palmer puts a couple of those chances in and with 2 goals to the good. But there was a conversation me and you had earlier on in the year, right? And it's, well, I say in the year, we're now in 2024, but earlier on in the season, and it's really stuck with me. You told me that you don't really need the best game plan or the best quality on the pitch to beat Chelsea. You need 11 big, strong blokes that are up for it and that can be patient and catch you on the counter. And I did not think when you said that to me maybe 4 or 5 games into the season, that 26 odd games into the season, we'd be sat here and that pattern would still be a persistently repeated pattern that is catching us out.
But look, I don't think that's a Pochettino problem. And look, I'm exposing myself now as being a Poch supporter, but I don't think that's a Pochettino issue. I think that's a board giving Pochettino a bunch of children to play with. Like, quite frankly, if you see the average age that we're looking at and the overall strength and complexion of our team, it is far weaker than our counterparts in the top of the Premier League. Far, far, far weaker. Even with, teams like Spurs who are bringing in new players, new defenders, even with Arsenal who are always seen to be a sort of a weaker team, more technical team, you'd say. Even Man United with a player who's 5'3" in centre-back, they are still overall older, wiser, more experienced, and able to sort of muck it against the sort of the teams that are there to expose you physically. I think they've given Pochettino the tools to have to play a certain way, and I think Pochettino has to play that. It's almost like giving a bricklayer half the bricks, and you sort of going, okay, yeah, build a beautiful wall, and he goes, to be honest with you, mate, it's going to leak a bit, but I'm going to do my best, and he ends up trying his best, and that's all he can physically build. That's what Pochettino's doing right now.
So when we touch on obviously the tools he's got there and the youth in the squad, I mean, mate, when you look at last night's performance, just for example, who were our worst 2 players on the pitch? I would say Axel Disasi and Raheem Sterling. Probably our worst 2 on the pitch last night. Some might argue, some might say other people, but I'd say those 2. Barring Thiago Silva, they're the oldest 2 on the pitch also. So that doesn't bode well for us when we're saying about the youth sort of letting us down. I know you're not completely alluding to that, but that's one of the points that I think people will be watching this wanting to make. The other thing as well is we're talking about, style of play here. What is Chelsea's style of play? Do you not think that with the speed that we've seen a style of play under Unai Emery in his job at Aston Villa, under Eddie Howe in his job at Newcastle when he came in, especially under Ange Postecoglou in his job at Tottenham, in such short amount of times, right? Having had probably like the same amount of dealings in the transfer market, which we will go into, do you not think that we're within our right to want to see more of a style of play from this Chelsea team? Because in the early stages of this season, we were sort of seeing a bit of a style of play, and I was thinking, okay, we've not got someone to put the ball in the back of the net. Starting to come good, though. When you look back through the matches recently, right, what is it, 4 wins out of 5 before last night's game or something like that? The style of play hasn't really been there. We've almost gone to a bit of a Man United job where it's like we're playing shit, but at least we're getting a few points on the board sort of thing, which is a contrast of earlier in the season where we were actually playing quite well, but weren't getting the points on the board. So what is Pochettino's style of play for you?
I think for me, it's very simple. It's sort of like asymmetric 4-2-3-1, try and overload the wings and try and play through teams and be quite aggressive and pacey in the transition. And I think with the players and the wingers that we have, we need to try and get the ball in and over the back 4 and try and get them running into them. And with teams like Borough last night, you got to look at them and say that they just want to sit back and try and play through us. And they want to wait for counter-attacking moments. And I tell you what, every time they counter-attacked, I was worried because we were open. And you talk about style of play, the one thing that I have to say at the moment is like we do look like we could be torn open at any single moment. So to say what I think Pochettino is trying to do, I think he's trying to cobble together a 4-2-3-1 system and maintain that. And what I would say to Chelsea fans questioning whether that's good enough or whether that's a system or whether there's an identity at all, what I would say is, you were also the fans that were questioning whether the 5-3-2 or the 5 at the back system was the one that was working or not. When we were playing that system with Thomas Tuchel.
The amount of people I heard when things weren't going well for us under Tuchel saying we need to go to a 4.
Yeah, we see it over and over again, mate. So there's almost like these ways of like tactical identity where you go, oh, under Conte, you go, oh yeah, I'm happy to play defensive football if it means that we're going to get results. And then you go, oh, I'm bored of Conte football. I want to have more attacking football. We try something different with the four at the back. Then we go back to a back five with Thomas Tuchel, and we get that's again different style of play, different mechanic, but again still that back five. And then you go, right, we want to see young players playing technical football at pace, playing through teams, demolishing them, getting lots of goals. And then you think, and then you go, oh, okay, well, I'm happy if we concede a few goals. So I just think that's going to happen. And while we don't have like a Postecoglou high line, mate, you've seen Postecoglou teams get absolutely ripped a new one. So there's pros and cons to every system. I think there are mitigating circumstances, but I would say this. There's an element of the managerial staff that we're not getting the best out of the players that we have to offer week in, week out. But there are several other mitigating factors that you have to do. So I'm acknowledging that there are both reasons by which you can beat Pochettino over the head with and say that he isn't enacting a plan that actually gets us wins, which is the most important thing. But then I have to say, I completely, on the other side, understand why there are other circumstances that Pochettino is having to deal with, which are bloody difficult to get your head around.
So let's have a little talk on that then. When we're talking about Pochettino potentially improving players, should we list the players that we wholeheartedly believe that Pochettino has improved since coming into the job?
I'd love to.
Okay, right. So let's start off. The most obvious one is Conor Gallagher is a lot better under Mauricio Pochettino.
Definitely.
Anyone else you'd throw into the hat?
Cole Palmer. I think Cole Palmer wasn't playing for City. I mean, obviously coached by one of the best coaches in the world. His experience and his sort of nous has come from Man City. But I have to say, you've got to have some coaching from Pochettino to have the season that he's had. And like you say, he's been right up there with some of the best performers in the entire Premier League.
Yep. Another one I'd throw into the hat, and obviously recency bias will go against him probably because he's sort of slipped people's mind now, but Cucurella is very, very, very much better this season under Mauricio Pochettino than he was last season. Another man that I would argue, and I think that some people might accuse you of a little bit of bias here, so I'll put my argument on the table for this. I think Mykhailo Mudryk is better this season than he was last season. However, unlike the credit that I can give to Pochettino for Cucurella's improved performances, maybe even for Raheem Sterling's improved performances, definitely for Conor Gallagher's, with the Mudryk one, I do very much think that the jury's out on whether that is Pochettino's management or whether that is settling into the club a little bit more. Because actually, if you look at the amount of starts that Pochettino gives him, pretty underwhelming, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Anyone else you could think of that you would say Pochettino's improved?
The only one that I was thinking of there, and I think it's a little bit disingenuous to call him out here, that Pochettino's done it, is Gusto. I think Gusto has looked very good when he's played.
He's looked good, but it falls into the Cole Palmer category here, where has Pochettino improved them, or were they just good players? Because Gusto didn't play last season for Chelsea. Cole Palmer didn't play consistently for Man City last season. He wasn't given 3 games on the bounce in the starting lineup for Man City. So maybe if he did do that, he would have played like that there, and we're not seeing it. So I think, as much as we've given credit where it can be given there, are we right to say that only 2 you can definitively say that Pochettino has improved are Conor Gallagher and Marc Cucurella?
I think you're getting close there, mate. Yeah. I really do.
Let's talk about players that we potentially think haven't improved or have regressed this season. I'll start you off. Badiashile has not been as good this season as he was last season. Enzo Fernandez, I don't think he's showing as much this season as he did last season. I think that's sort of starting to say something a little bit, because it's not like he was setting the world on fire last season. Madueke, I thought, looked a little bit better in his campaign last season. Amanda Broja was very unlucky with his injury, and obviously we've got to take that massive factor into account, but we also can't deny that Amanda Broja is not any better this season. And then when you're looking at it, actually, you're thinking, well, not many players were at Chelsea last season that are still here, so it's a hard comparison to make, and settling into a new club can be hard. But also, we'd go as far to say that Caicedo, who I think comes under not unfair criticism, but maybe too harsh a criticism, he's not as good last season as he was at Brighton. So is it fair to say that more players have regressed under Pochettino than have improved under Pochettino? Or am I looking at that the wrong way if that was my opinion?
I think regression is a hard word to tar a lot of those players with, especially when you've caveated about 3 of those players with that they were injured for significant parts of the season. And we've had so many injuries. And I hate to keep saying this over and over again because I do think it's a bit of a get out of jail free card. But we've had so many injuries that Poch has had to deal with where he has to nurse players back and actually probably hasn't really even had any coaching time with them. You know, when you're talking about Badiashile, how much time has he actually had with him on the pitch? Very minimal. And what I would say to counter all of the points here about progression and regression is that Pochettino has said from the moment that he came in, he needs time to get around these players, especially when they're young players. And you look at what he did at Southampton and Spurs, and both of those were long-term projects where he was backed completely and allowed young players to flourish. And I have to say, mate, at the start of that tenure, at both of those clubs, there were moments like this where you were questioning the manager and you were questioning how he was improving players. And then eventually it came good. So I'm not saying that Pochettino will inevitably come good at Chelsea. I still think the jury is out. We don't know whether he's going to be a top-class manager. But I have to say, in this debate that you're questioning, you know, how he's improved individual players, there has to be the other side of it where it's caveating and going, yes, we've had a lot of injuries, and yes, he hasn't had a lot of time with the players, and yes, he needs time with young players more than the 6 months that he's had with them so far.
A Instagram page that I follow, London Will Always Be Blue, very good Instagram page. The admin, the guy that runs that, he put a quote out. He put a story out on his Instagram page last night. I just want to read it to you and see if you agree with what he's written here. He's sort of analysing Pochettino's recent performances as Chelsea manager. Only beat Brighton because we lucked out with the schedule of them having Europe. Dominated at Everton, dominated at United, beaten by Wolves. We then beat bottom of the league, Sheffield United. Last minute penalty to Palace. Pretty much crumbled at Luton. Only played in the semi-finals because of Kieran Trippier's mistakes. And just lost to a championship team with 14 injuries. Does that make things sound worse than it is? Or is there some credit to that? Because when I looked at that, I thought, come on, you got to give us credit. You know, you could spin it and say we held on against Luton. You could spin it and say we kept ourselves in the game against Crystal Palace and were sort of persistent at their goal in the later stages of that match. And you could look at the game against Sheffield United and you could say, yeah, they are bottom of the league, but they were on a new manager bounce off the back of a win, we need to remember. And obviously in the Newcastle game, yes, Trippier's mistakes got us it, but I do think we deserved to at least get a point in that game on the run of play, how things were going. It was a match that I was at, and I did think that we were quite dominant against Newcastle. So are we at risk here of letting our emotion off the back of a game that we really wish we had have won, maybe giving us a real bad outlook on what the job that Pochettino is doing at the moment?
I think the answer to that is like both yes. Like I think you can absolutely say that we've had a very easy run of fixtures and we haven't necessarily sort of coated ourselves in glory at all. But I think you can also say the only thing that matters to Chelsea Football Club right now is points on the board and progression in the cups. And, you know, we've progressed, you know, through the FA Cup. We've managed to get through that. We've got through to the semi-final of the Carabao Cup. We're still in the game.
We're still going to go through, by the way. Like this is the thing. This is the thing that I've been like biting my tongue on saying. Listen, I get Chelsea aren't the same as old, but second leg at Stamford Bridge, whether it's Europe, whether it's Champions League, Europa League, League Cup, FA Cup, second leg at Stamford Bridge means
we're going through.
We're going through. We're going through. This is the thing. We're going through against Borough. You know we are.
I do.
I'm going to be there. You're probably going to be there. We're going to go through against Borough. Like, calm down. But we have got to play devil's advocate with this here. Let me just question you on one more thing before we sort of discuss where Chelsea go from here. How do you feel about Pochettino's comments? Because we did see him come out and be pretty scathing after the Newcastle defeat at St James's Park on some of the players. But some of the comments that Pochettino's made, and there is always a bit of a language barrier and whatnot, but he has managed in England for years now. Some of the comments he's made don't sit too well. So one of them I'll quickly read out.
Tell me exactly what he says, because I've got a good perspective on this.
Okay. Do you want it in his voice?
Yeah, I want it absolutely in his voice. Accent and all, please.
Okay. The most important thing is we need to enjoy the semi-final, not to feel it is compulsory for us to be in the final. Football is not about that. You cannot play if you feel pressure and you don't feel fresh in your mind. What is that accent?
It was excellent. I was actually very impressed with that.
Yeah.
Are you Argentinian? Are you half Argentinian?
I like an Argentinian steak. No, right. So basically, the most important thing is to enjoy the occasion and not feel like it's compulsory for us to be in the final.
Yeah.
No,
and he also said we played well last night as well, didn't he?
Yeah, that's the other thing. I don't want to go in to hypotheticals too much, but would a Jose Mourinho say that?
So that comment itself is a bit of a joke, but again, like the comment of we played well, I can understand it. And let me explain what's going on here, because this is classic mind games that football fans don't necessarily always get. But if you're a football manager, you have to play these games. He did it with Cole Palmer in the week, where he said Cole Palmer's been playing really, really well, but he needs to improve what he's doing on the pitch and he needs to improve off the pitch. And we're all questioning that and going, how the fuck can you say Cole Palmer needs to improve anything on the pitch? He's been one of the best players in the Premier League. And what Pochettino was doing in that moment was he was going, I think you can go a level beyond what you're doing. And I think you need to sharpen up and get better. So what he's saying in those comments about you need to enjoy the games was that we saw this exactly, mate. And do you know what? I was watching it last night, and it was one of the key things that I noticed was that we were looking nervous in every single phase of play. When they were running at us, when that winger was going against Colwill, when they had a transitionary moment, every single one of our players, they tensed up and they looked nervous. And that's actually probably why Colwill allowed the mistake that he did. And that's, for me, the only person that I'm blaming for their goal is Levi Colwill.
And sorry to just interrupt you there, right? But you said about us looking nervous. Name me someone that we had on that bench last night or Pochettino could have selected that wouldn't have looked nervous and that wouldn't have played in that way.
Exactly. So I think what he's doing is he's saying to them, look, just go out there, enjoy the game. If you play your natural game, you will be better. And I think they didn't play their natural game, and that's why we ended up losing it, because they were tense and they were making mistakes when they didn't need to. Sometimes when we used to watch Chelsea back in the day, they would play the ball around defence and they would play balls as if it was the easiest game in the world, and they'd take the piss out of teams. And that's what you do sometimes with experience and with like world-class elite players. They just make football look easy, mate. And we made the football last night look difficult. So first of all, I understand that. The other comment that Poch has got a lot of flack for was that we looked good in the game yesterday, right? And he said the overall performance was fine, and that we actually played. The performance was good, I think was the quote, right? I know exactly. It's so outwardly, I know exactly it was a shit performance, and we should rightly.
Let me just read it to you.
Please do.
The quote. The pressure was good and the intensity. We cannot say anything. We made some mistakes in the first half. We gave them chances to score, and they were aggressive and tough. They play in the transition with counter-attack and in a block really deep, and it was difficult for us to break them down.
But I understand why he's saying this, because what he's doing here is outwardly supporting the boys. Because if you go now and you've got a team that are nervous, young, questioning themselves, don't know whether they're going to win the second leg, and you go outwardly and slag them all off. Do you know what, mate? We saw that at the tail end of last year, where managers were questioning us and going, yeah, the players are shit, they don't want to be here. And that's the beginning of the end. That's when you knew it was over. Yeah. Whereas with Pochettino, he's doing this thing where it's like, we are one team. And I tell you what, mate, if that was Jose Mourinho saying that, you would be going, fucking hell, this is elite man management. He's making us a unit and questioning them. And then I tell you what Jose Mourinho does in that situation. Outwardly, we're a big unit. Yeah, we're all together. I was happy with the performance. In that dressing room, he fucking rips into them. And then the next day, he also gets them in his dressing room and he goes, that was a pile of shite and you need to be better. And I do think Pochettino, and this is one credit that I will say to him, I do think his man management is actually pretty good. And I think he will be doing that today.
So, do you believe the name you just brought up there, Jose Mourinho, if he was to come in now, do you believe that Jose Mourinho would do a better job with this Chelsea side than Mauricio Pochettino is?
I think with the squad, no. I think with the playing staff that we have, you know exactly what will happen when Jose Mourinho gets into this team. And in a weird way, in a weird way, I almost hope that it happens, right? Because I'd like to see Jose back more than anything. Obviously, we're biased about how much we love Jose. But Jose
I'm
would
not
be...
the one of the bottle.
Jose would be going and he would be saying, I need to sign 5 world-class players that are 25 and over, and the board would be going, fuck off. In fact, that's why Jose would never get the job again at Chelsea, because the board are going in a completely different direction. So I understand with the limited resources, and when I say limited resources, I mean the age profile, not the money spent, and we're going to rebuild the squad. We'll be perpetually bantered about spending billions and billions of pounds, because that's just Chelsea Football Club. We spend a lot of money. But with the tools that he has, I actually can't think of many other options that we had in the summer that were available. Enrique, shit at PSG. You know, Nagelsmann is at Germany, not necessarily pulling up strings, and also pisses off every other player and managerial stuff he has to deal with. Name me any other manager that was on the market, available, ready to go, that would have done a better job than Pochettino.
None.
So to question him now and to say that he shouldn't get backed, I understand completely why people are doing it, because they're sick of the way that we're playing, and they're actually taking into account the time that Pochettino wasn't even at the club. You know, the period of instability, Tuchel, Potter, Lampard, you know, that was a shit time for Chelsea Football Club. And Pochettino is paying the price for that. By no means is he a Chelsea, you know, standard right now. But I have to say, we can't keep going through this merry-go-round. What do you think about it?
Well, one point I will touch on that you made there, I'd have to disagree with you. Jose Mourinho would do a better job right now with this Chelsea side. I think that Jose Mourinho would ruffle way more feathers. There'd be less rotation, but we'd grind out results. And I would actually go as far to say this is one thing that people might not agree with. We probably play a better style of football right now under Jose Mourinho than we are under Mauricio Pochettino. We have moments in games when we really turn it on. We turn the screw and we look good. That 10, 15-minute spell against Preston was unreal. We had a really good first half against Luton and looked good. But we go missing in games. We show massive, massive lacks of character. But again, exactly like you just said there, mate, like, I don't believe that with the squad we've got, with the personnel we've got, Mauricio Pochettino is doing way worse than any other manager would be. I believe he's doing worse than some other managers. I believe Jose Mourinho would have us higher. And the reason I say Jose isn't because I think Jose Mourinho is the best manager out there, but I'm being realistic. We can't even attract. I say even, he's a good manager, but we can't even attract an Ancelotti. We can't attract a Pep. Can't attract Klopp. Mauricio Pochettino is doing a better job than Graham Potter would be doing right now. He's doing a better job than De Zerbi would be doing right now. He's doing a better job than Nagelsmann and then Enrique would be doing right now. Or let me not say a better job. He's doing an adequate job to what they could be doing, I believe.
So Jose's available in the summer. It's a very well-known secret that he's ready to go and leave Roma. If you're in charge, if you're Todd Bowley and put your American accent on, are you going to hire Jose Mourinho in the summer?
Hey, Jose, I know that you love the Chelsea Blue Sox, but
honestly,
see how it is. See how it is at the end of the season, man. If there's still a lack of style of play, if things aren't coming together, if we don't have an agreement in there with Victor Osimhen or someone like that, then yeah, it might be a decision I'd make. But my decision right now, which I think you'll be sort of in favour of, I'd keep Pochettino in the job, man. I really would. I'm not Pochettino out. I did put a poll up on my story. It's had over 1,000 votes already. 67% of people that voted on it are Pochettino in. Most people think Pochettino should stay. I definitely believe Pochettino should stay. But I can't really put it any more plain and simple than this. Should Mauricio Pochettino be doing a better job right now than he is? Yes, I do believe he should be doing a better job. Should, with the squad he's got, with the injuries, suspensions, all the circumstances going against us, we be competing for Champions League football right now? I believe that is the absolute cap of what an elite manager could get out of this squad. No manager could have this lot in a title race. Some, very few, could maybe have us in and around that 5th, 6th position, touching distance of Champions League football. So Mauricio Pochettino is not massively, massively underperforming. I believe he's just performing to the best of the ability he could be right now. So I believe that given time, maybe we might see something different.
Yeah, look, for me, I'm Poch in at the moment, but I completely understand why the pressure is building on him. And in fact, when we did a video at the start of the season about the top 6 managers that would potentially be first in the sack race, and I think you said Ten Hag, and I think I said Pochettino, because I could see the bureaucracy of Man United being so slow that and our quick-paced management team, the board, sacking Pochettino first. So I have seen the pressure building. We know that Chelsea managers are always going to be building. And I completely respect the opinions of Chelsea fans now that are sick and tired of the football and the quality of the play and us grinding results out against very weak teams. And I also do worry about the state of the rest of our season when we do have to play some good teams coming up. I do worry about what that run's going to be. I worry about that. So I completely understand it. But for my position now, I think other teams' fan bases would want us to sack Pochettino because it'll be more instability and another squad that will have to be rebuilt in a new manager's image, and we start the clock again. And I just don't think it's the best thing for our football club. And do I think that there are better managers than Pochettino in the long run? Potentially. And that's a potential. But what I would say is better the devil you know sometimes in these situations. And I do think we just got to try and build some stability in the club, because let's be no bones about it, mate. We have had the most unstable club with so much changing. We just need something to just be constant.
Yes or no, not your view, not what you would want, from what you expect of Chelsea Football Club going forward, from Todd Bowley's decision, whoever makes the decisions right now. If we fail to beat Fulham on the weekend in the Premier League, and then the following Tuesday we don't manage to overturn the deficit and we do go out in the semi-finals to Middlesbrough at Stamford Bridge, that next day is Mauricio Pochettino still in a job?
Yes. I think the only way that he wouldn't be is if we finish 10th, if we're out of both cups, and that is the end of our season, and no European football again, and there's no progression. I think in the summer, absolutely they can make a decision, but I don't feel that they're going to sack Pochettino before the end of this season, unless it gets catastrophically worse. What do you think?
I think if we go out to Borough in the cup, that's that could be close to breaking point. I'm not saying it for me, but I tell you what, I'm also not trying to sit on the fence too much here and you know, have 2 points of view. If we go out to Borough in the semi-finals of the League Cup, that's a catastrophic failure. We need to be in that final. The good news is, I think we will be in the final, so don't worry about it. It's all good. People, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Are you Pochettino in? Are you Pochettino out? And if you are Pochettino out, who's the man for the job? Who do you truly believe could be the man to resurrect this Chelsea side? Please do me a massive favour once again, but you're also doing yourself a favour by doing this. Head over to Josh's channel, subscribe to his channel so that you can see all of the content that he is banging out. If you're not already, subscribe to my channel, hit the like on the video, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you all in the next one.